from the blackest corners of your mind, they call, pulling you deep into shadow, twisting your senses, keeping you from sleep. It's time to face your darkest fears. This is Tales to Terrify. Good evening, children of the night, and welcome. March is a special month here at Tales to Terrify. While we do our best to celebrate diversity and inclusivity throughout the year, March is an opportunity for us to shine a spotlight on the deep, indelible contributions women have made in our genre. Once again, our intrepid fiction editor, Meredith Morgenstern, has prepared some insights and recommendations to help you make the most of Women in Horror Month. So, without further ado, I'll place you in her very capable hands. Over to you, Meredith.
Thank you, Drew. Well, hello there, children of the night. Welcome to another year of Women in Horror Month here at Tales to Terrify. This year, I have the pleasure of introducing you to four lovely ladies whose siren songs will lure you into dark and disturbing places. Before I introduce you to Woman in Horror number 1, I'd like to state that Tales to Terrify supports diversity in all its forms. We believe that the horror genre itself is a celebration of diverse voices and a safe haven for everyone brave enough to plumb its inky depths. That means we believe that trans women are women, but that we unfortunately live in a time when this obvious statement needs to be said out loud. And now, let's meet our first haunting woman in horror for 2025. Luana Saitta is a 39-year-old trans woman born to Italian immigrants in Belgium, where she currently resides. Her earliest brushes with horror were in the form of her uncle's forbidden VHS collection that he nonetheless gladly opened up to her. Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness was a kid-friendly introduction to the Evil Dead series, which she then went on to experience in reverse. As soon as Luana started reading books for grown-ups, Stephen King started inexorably making his way toward her, like some gunslinger across a desert. Her first proper scary book was The Bangor Bard's Desperation. King led to Lovecraft and Luana's discovery of cosmic horror, the idea that humanity is but a speck on the windshield of infinity, and the wipers can come down at any second. Lovecraft's pen pal Robert E. Howard came next, the granddaddy of sword and sorcery, epic fantasy's sleazier, more horror-adjacent cousin. Conan didn't fight orcs. He fought asshole humans and the creatures from the outer void they would summon in their quest for earthly domination. While Luana fell in love with many a final girl over the decades, Ash, the idiot, and Conan, the badass, were two archetypes she simply didn't see women get to embody all that often, and so she set out to write some herself. Luana's published material has mostly been in fantasy, though usually with heavy horror leanings. You can find it in Sword and Sorcery magazine, Wingraph Fantasy, and the upcoming summer 2025 issue of New Edge Sword and Sorcery. Her most straight-up horror tale, The Augur, is currently out on submission. Luana's nonfiction has appeared in Fangoria, where she wrote about second-tier Godzilla and horror's daughters-in-law. Women in Horror Month is important to her in order to showcase voices that present female characters, not solely as specific channels for female trauma, you know the one, or as aggrieved mama bears. We are all specks on the windshield, regardless of what's between our legs. Let's fucking party until the wipers come down. Thank you, Luana. Now, back to our voice of the void, Drew Sebastini.
Thank you, Meredith. We'll hear from Meredith again throughout the month, so stay tuned for that. For tonight, though, we have 2 tales for you, about a woman's love for her new parasite and an encounter with a black cat that leads to thrilling and frightening changes. Our first story for the evening comes from Addison Smith. Addison Smith is an amorphous being constructed of suspended cold brew and kombucha. He's doing his best, though. His fiction has appeared in dozens of publications, including Fantasy Magazine, Fireside Magazine, and Daily Science Fiction. Addison is a member of the Codex Writers Group, and you can find him on Blue Sky at addisoncs.bsky.social. Children of the Night, join me for Addison Smith's For You I Return, first published in Tree and Stone Magazine, March 2023.
I retch and my throat burns. Bile pierces the porous tissue of my mouth, where rot and infection have eaten me away. You feel it, I think. You enjoy the pain. That thing you can never understand, even as you choose me as your host. My stomach empties onto the floor, permeating the microscopic layer of sensitive material an instant before it alerts the ship. Lights flash red in my quarters, and 1,000 scripts are set into motion. Notifications are sent to apprehend me for my crime, the crime of you. A pilot light flares the incinerator into life after too short a reprieve, hungry not for my incidental flesh, but for the secret I carry inside. I picture Maya receiving the notice to apprehend and not knowing whether to protect me, or kill me, or leave me to the others. Instead, she lays on the bottom of the strange sea, or still sinking into its unknown depths. I wipe my lip, and rotten teeth grin. I love you. I have loved you since you introduced yourself to me, weeks before, on our excursion into the depths, where strange things live and Maya rests. Since you showed me the scale of the world and the tiny space I occupy, not tiny at all to one like yourself, who can move between spaces too small for human or rodent or air. I love you for your words, thoughts cooed after long nights where I have blacked out, done strange things for you, entered places I am not allowed to be, and washed the red from my skin in a sink dirtied by clot and gore. I love you, and though they mean you harm, I know it cannot be. You flow through my body, blood hot and thick in my veins. You suffuse me, overtake me. They tell us you are a lie, that my love for you is to ensure that I will die protecting you, or live to spread you. I breathe deeply as red light bathes my skin and bare feet toe the corridor beyond my room. They come for you. I know you are a parasite, and I know what I am meant to do. Even so, I protect you. The door slides open, and I meet my first challenger. My palm drives upward into her chin, amid the crack of cartilage and the slow realization of pain. The ones who follow hesitate. They are unsure, so unlike you or me or the endless depths. They want 1,000 things, and they conflict in their minds, making them slow to decide. The next approaches, and her trachea collapses in my hand. You build within me like a spore seeking fertile flesh. But for now, you are mine, this woman's body broken and unable to serve. I hold you dear, but you are in my sweat and my blood and the sick which drips from my lips. Suited bodies lay around me, thin plastics meant to protect their bodies from you, but I am your vessel, and it is me they must fear. I step into the corridor, and already I feel you taking control of me to further your desires. The blackness creeps around me as you take over my body, and in that blackness I see Maya's dive lights fading into the black as her body sinks farther away from me, deep into an alien sea where no human has been. Soon even those thoughts are gone. The world slips away, and I know no fear. I return. I am in my body, our ship, the boundless ocean, and a strange world outside. My thoughts return to me, bringing pieces of my dissociation with them. In those empty hours, I see blood and broken bone and a trail of bodies leading me to this place. The memories are bruises on my flesh, which you are quick to caress. The dead surround me, but I am no longer in my quarters. You have taken me far this time, deep into the ship, where I cannot hear the groans of deep-sea pressure. This is not my place, but it is where you need me, and so it is. My thoughts move to memory, and you push me away to prevent me mourning what I have lost. She was not you, though I loved her. This is the reason I am dead inside, a mere carcass for you to do with as you will. Without Maya, I have no place, no heart, and it is a void you fill perfectly with your words. Tears well in my eyes. It is curious that you allow me these thoughts. My mind clouds with visions of her face, her malfunctioning suit, the water taking her lifeless body to the depths. But there is more than that. I see her hair draped over my lap as I caress her scalp. I remember long nights and evenings too short as we court and make love and plan our future when the mission is over and we have returned to the surface, to orbit, to our home. Maya. My voice echoes from thin ductwork around me, as if those feelings are enough to rattle their walls, free them from rivet and screw, and collapse the ship into the sinking beyond with my infected body at its core. I know why you have brought me here, though I don't want to see it. The ship's air circulates through these vents, and bodies lay all around me, trailed by red streaks where I have dragged them, packed them into the ducts, so the air may carry their disease. My hair blows in the false wind, but I feel nothing, the same as the dead which surround me. I beg you to take me again, as tears fall from my eyes. I don't want to see them. You can protect me from death, from their bodies, from Maya and the lights of her suit disappearing into the dark. My hands are on my face, tearing at my hair, and digging nails into my cheeks. You take me, and though I am broken, the darkness is sweet. I return. Maya stands before me, pleading with me as she holds something sharp in her hands. It takes me a moment to realize it is a harpoon, the same as she carried when she drifted away. Her face is bloody and streaked with dragged fingers, but she is alive. She points the harpoon at me and shouts as tears fall from her eyes. I cannot hear her over my own thoughts and your pressing voice. I hold my ears against the noise and scream silence into the ship. Maya is dead. Maya is dead. I relive her death again and again as she stares with concern. I am back outside the walls, and it was not her suit which failed, but my own. How did you find me? How did you get into my suit for me to carry you home and spread you to my family? I scream again, and the harpoon clatters to the floor. Why do you show her to me? I know you are in my mind, and you are welcome there, a calming presence. I know you have implanted thoughts to save me from the agony of saving you. This is too much. Of the visions you implant, this hurts the most. She is dead, sinking, gone. I strike at the false vision, and she recoils, so real. I bite and claw and punch, trying to free myself of the specter you present to me. Tears stream down my face, no longer in my control. They are not my tears, but those of my body, empty of what used to be me. You test me, and I know I have passed. She is not real. She is a test of my loyalty. The specter of Maya raises the harpoon. She cannot hurt me. She is dead. I give myself over to you and stop resisting. I lower my hands. Pain sears through my body and darkness takes me, but I am not in your grasp. Wake up. You abandoned me. Wake up. I return, but I find you gone from me. Wires and tubes hang from my naked body, and my thoughts are dull and weak. I reach for your comfort, but find only emptiness, the remainder of my being where once you lay. You left me. The words are from my own lips, stretched and pained, and joined by tears which are not my own. Maya stands above me, crying over my empty body. I'm right here, she says. The death faded from her eyes. You left me, but she is here. Why do you still test me? She holds me, lifts my head from the table and embraces me. Maya, I say, but she shushes me, checks the tubes which fill my body with strange liquids. They burn you from my body, designed to destroy every cell of your being and every nuance of your voice. You're going to get better now, she says, and I smile. Warm memories flood through me as sure as her voice. Her body pressed against my own, our fingers entwined, soft sighs escaping her lips. She does not say what will happen to me. Our crew is dead, our ship infected. I killed them, infected them, spread you through their bodies. You fill the air around us, inoculate us with your presence. Maya shifts her arm, and I see her own intravenous tubes. I smile, knowing she will survive. You're dead, I say with defiance in my voice. I watched you die. Confusion. Concern. I watch your eyes and they tell a story you cannot explain with all of your words. I'm right here. Something happened on your last dive. You came back with it, some sort of parasite. You burn my body, I say, and she casts worry over me. The incinerator. Incinerator? Maya says, what are you talking about? No incinerator. No dead Maya seeking further and further from my life. I know this world for what it is, and I smile in the light of truth. I no longer black out. You no longer speak to me, but I know what I have lived. As I leave the med bay, I am aware of every life I have destroyed, every bone broken and throat crushed, and infection spread to fertile bodies. I feel the floor beneath my bare feet as I walk through our ship, so much emptier than before. I see all of this, not as a memory, but as life passing before me. I am here. I exist. The pressure pushes on our ship, our tiny home, and I make my way past diving suits and tanks and devices for grappling and taking samples. I ignore them all. I leave Maya behind, knowing in my heart what is truth. The walls are thicker here. The great skin of our ship, meant to withstand the pressures of an alien sea. Before me is a door, a great wheel set in its center that is meant to take two to open. I find that I am stronger, that you have made me stronger, and I open it myself, seal myself in the tiny room beyond. I turn the lock on a thick door I have seen through 100 times, a great thing of steel and pressure-resistant glass. I feel every step as surely as I felt Maya's death. You test me still. I look out the window to the black depths and the tiny creatures which thrive in the pressure. I hear nothing behind me, but I am aware of her ghost. The lie of Maya shouts, but in turning I see only her mouth moving. I cannot hear her words beyond that glass barrier, but what would she say? She cries and pounds at the glass, and all I see are her dead eyes as she descends into nothingness. Maya is dead. I trust you. I turn toward the second hatch and the crushing sea beyond. I open the hatch and I return.
That was Addison Smith's For You I Return, as read by Maurine McLean. Maurine McLean is an Austin musician, plucking the bass with acoustic bands, the Therapy Sisters, and a proper cup of coffee. She earns her keep in the courtroom interpreting real-life terrifying tales from Spanish to English. Thank you, Maurine. Our second tale tonight comes from Lisa Papademetriou. Lisa Papademetriou's short fiction has appeared in Clarkesworld and Asimov's, and she is the author of several novels for young readers. Visit her on her website, lisapapa.com. Listen with me, children of the night, to Lisa Papademetriou's A House Made of Gingerbread, a Tales to Terrify original.
The black cat sat primly, tail curled around paws, perched atop a white porch railing. It watched impassively as Anna yanked her tote bag out of the back seat and hooked it over her shoulder, wrestling with a chunk of long hair that had gotten trapped beneath the handles. Her office was around the corner, and she usually parked her Prius on this quiet residential street, often in front of the same white multifamily house that squatted near the corner. She had never noticed the black cat before. All summer, the pink climbing rose bushes at the front of the house had bloomed, lavish and lascivious, climbing up the gingerbread filigree. The flowers were beginning to fade in August's thick heat, dropping petals that scattered across the drying strip of grass. Anna took a tentative sip from the travel mug of hot black coffee in one hand as she hit the button to lock the car with her other. A drop of dark liquid dripped from the cup, landing on the right thigh of her jeans. Sighing, she resolved to try to blot it out later in the restroom. Anna had long ago given up trying to appear stylish or fashionable. Motherhood had killed any ambition she had for fashion. She only ever dressed up for closings, when her clients expected their real estate lawyer to look professional. Otherwise, she spent most of her day in a small office with 5 employees, her main companion a keyboard. Methodically, the cat licked its paw, yellow eyes watching as Anna walked past. There was a slight jingle as it leaped on silent paws to the porch, then stalked down the steps to the sidewalk to follow. Anna was already at the glass office door when she heard a meow. The black cat sat, watching her, and meowed again. "Hello?" Anna reached out to pet the cat, which butted its head against her fingers in pleasure. It rubbed its mouth against her knuckle, purring, as if they were old friends. "What's your name?" Anna reached for the mirror silver disc that hung from a purple collar. "Please do not feed," read the tag. "I see how it is." The cat closed its yellow eyes in pleasure as she scratched behind its ears. "You've got friends all over the neighborhood. And you're a little piggy. Do you go around asking everyone for food, little piggy?" Anna gave the cat a final stroke along its back, then reached for the door. The cat stepped forward, as if it were planning to come along, perhaps to complete some paralegal work. "No!" Anna shut the door abruptly. "No, piggy. You can't go everywhere." She stared into the cat's eyes, noticing the textured yellow, like layers of tiny scales on a butterfly wing. Blinking slowly, Piggy turned and flowed away. An image passed through Anna's mind. A dark spot, an oil slick or deep shadow, moving through blue water toward the shore beneath a darkening sky. The image passed away, and Anna walked into the office to start another day. There was something different about her reflection. Several days had passed since she met the black cat, and this morning when she woke up, her image reminded her of old silver mirrors, their backing worn away in soft patches. But this wasn't an old mirror, just a regular Home Depot medicine cabinet, possibly the most unmagical object in a distinctly unmagical room. And yet, she seemed to have a halo, like a corona around the moon on a misty evening. It was her hair. For years, the silver strands had been appearing among the dark brown, like stalks of wheat sprouting up in a field of oats. But now, very suddenly, it had reached a tipping point. No longer brown with gray hairs, she was very suddenly gray with a few brown hairs. The silver softened her, erasing her at the edges, like the outline of a shadow where it meets the light. Downstairs in the kitchen, she poured herself a cup of black coffee, placed a boiled egg in a bowl. She always boiled several over the weekends, so that she could have a high-protein breakfast by eating the dense, flavorless whites and discarding the fatty yolk. She placed both on the table, then pulled a few picked-over strawberries from their plastic container and placed them in a bowl. Finally, she got herself some water from the tap and sat down at the round table across from her husband of 17 years, who was spooning up his oatmeal and solving the New York Times crossword on his phone. For the past few months, he had been on a health kick, eating well, running, chasing something that got farther away with every passing day. "Do I look different to you?" Anna asked. Derek looked up, his gaze directed at her face, although his unfocused expression left her wondering whether he had registered her appearance at all. "You look great," he said. Taking another bite of his oatmeal, he turned his attention back to his puzzle. Without looking up, he reached for her glass of water, draining it in a long sip. He placed the empty glass beside his plate, as if he hadn't even realized that the water was hers. Anna peeled her egg. The shell came off cleanly, almost perfectly in 2 halves. She kept her eyes on her husband as she salted it, then bit off the top half of the egg. The richness of the yolk traveled straight to her brain, and she smiled. She put down the egg. She didn't want it. She didn't want the limp strawberries. She didn't want the black coffee. A memory appeared. Her friend Caroline in high school sitting behind the wheel of her mother's white Mustang convertible. Herself in the passenger seat as they ordered at the McDonald's drive-thru. Apple pies to eat on the way to school. The hand pie came in a paper sleeve, and when she tipped the wrapper, the pie slid warm, flaky, and gooey in her fingers. "Heading out?" Derek asked as she took her plate and bowl to the counter, to sit alongside the used glass, crusts, and plate that represented the detritus of her teenage son's breakfast. She would deal with the dishes later. "Yes," she replied. There was a little cafe beside her office that had raspberry danishes, decorated with swirling ropes of white icing, vibrant raspberry jam at the center. There was still time to stop before work. A few weeks later, Anna had a vision in a toilet bowl. She had dipped the brush into milky, foamy water and swished, scrubbing beneath the rim, then flushed. As the water disappeared, then refilled, clean and clear, the ripples became white sheets, curved around a body, skimming an arm, and there a foot. A man's hand traced up a smooth woman's leg, reminding Anna that she had not shaved in weeks. Like driving into a dense fog, the wisps thickened and became almost solid, until they were all that she could see. It was her husband, Derek, in bed with Jane Albertson in what appeared to be a respectable, moderately priced hotel. There was a gray chair with a pop-of-color orange pillow, black bureau designed to conceal a mini fridge, and desk chair holding a pair of hastily discarded pants. Anna observed her own reaction. She knew by the tightening in her throat, the stone on her chest, that she was envious. But she wasn't jealous of 15 years younger Jane, or her trim Ann Taylor separates, or of the stolen hours with Derek on a Saturday afternoon when he was supposedly playing golf. No, she envied the hotel room. The bathroom cleaned by someone else. The sterile lack of clutter. A room to be alone in. Did it matter that Jane was their couples therapist? Anna couldn't decide. She didn't think so. What mattered was that Jane and Derek got to lie in a bed that they hadn't made. The fog receded, and she found herself staring at her own shadowy reflection in the toilet water. "Yes, hello?" Her son addressed her as if he were the concierge at a luxury hotel, and she was the staff who belonged in the basement. He lay perched against a pile of pillows and half-closed his laptop reflexively as Anna opened his door part way, holding a laundry basket. "What do you want?" What did she want? With this laundry basket in her hands, how shocked would he be to hear the truth? She wanted to make people tremble when she came into a room. She wanted to make snow fall from the sky on a summer day. She wanted to turn Derek into a pig. She wanted to exist. "I've come for your laundry," she said. "I told you I'll do it myself." Anna looked around at the clothing spilling from bureau drawers and scattered in clumps across the hardwood floor. "It never gets done." "I said I'd do it, Mom." He glanced at the phone in his hand, and she wondered who he had been talking to. Were they watching a movie together, working on homework, gaming? She had come to help him, but he just wanted her to leave. "Are your walls darker?" She squinted at the paint, which used to be blue, she was sure, but now it was gray. Was there some sort of dust or mold lingering in his fetid room? "It's just dark." He lifted his eyebrows at her, as if to say, "Would you get out of here?" Behind him the wall swelled and rolled, shifting like a thundercloud. A dark shape moved near the ceiling. "Clean this shit up," she said, and although she did not touch the knob, the door slammed shut behind her. In the hallway, she heard him speak into the phone in a voice that sounded exactly like her husband's. "Nobody," he explained. "Just my mom." "You're still in bed?" Fully clothed, Derek stood at the edge of the bed, looking down at her. Rolling over, Anna pulled the comforter over her head. She was tired in a way that she hadn't been since her pregnancy 16 years ago, when her body was undergoing a construction project that fundamentally altered her physical reality. "Don't you have work today?" he asked, as if she didn't have work every day. She grunted in his general direction. This elicited a sigh, as if her staying in bed was any of his concern. More noisily than necessary, she thought, he grabbed his keys and wallet from the nightstand, then shut the bedroom door. Lying in bed, eyes closed, she listened to the sound of her own breath as she inhaled, then exhaled. The house was quiet. Sam had left for school. She had discovered recently that she no longer cared about commercial real estate transactions. She had 637 unread email messages, and she had ceased checking her texts 10 days ago. Beyond her window, the sound of a car as it swept down the street. The world spun on. It didn't require her presence. There were plenty of other lawyers on earth. Let her clients use them. Instead of keeping her in bed, that thought liberated her, and she flung off the blankets. She didn't bother to get dressed. Instead, she went down to the kitchen and peered in the refrigerator. Anna was reaching for a container of leftover pasta when the edge of her peripheral vision caught movement. A black cat stalked along the windowsill beside the side door. The same black cat that had tried to follow her into work. Their eyes met for an instant, and the cat hopped down, disappearing from view. Anna shut the refrigerator and opened the door. There was the cat. Something writhed in its mouth. It was fatter and darker than a mouse. A vole? "Have you brought me a gift, little piggy?" The cat's gaze was even. The vole's tail twitched. "Kill it," she told the cat. She looked in the refrigerator again, but everything inside repulsed her. When she turned back to the door, the dead vole lay in the center of the black rubber mat. She picked it up by its tail. Still warm, she could feel the delicate bones beneath the fat and flesh. Tilting her head back, she opened her mouth and swallowed the vole. When Derek got home, he put down his bag, looked through the mail on the small table by the front door, and only then looked up and saw Anna sitting with the cat on their gray couch. The cat was curled beside her thigh, and Anna's hand rested gently on its belly. "Whose cat is that?" Derek asked. Anna looked down at the cat, stroked its black fur all the way down to the tip of its tail, and then said, "Mine." Derek shook his head. "I don't like cats." Anna blinked at him slowly, in the exact manner that the cat blinked at her. "How unfortunate for you," she said. She kept her eyes locked on his. Perhaps you should bring up your feelings in couples therapy." The last 2 words held the slightest inflection. She stroked the cat again, who purred. Derek held perfectly still, a rodent hypnotized under a snake's gaze. She smiled. "By the way, I think we're done with that, don't you?" Anna heard her own voice as if it were coming from far away. It didn't sound like her voice. It was higher, almost musical, but soft, like notes from a violin. "It's not as if we have real problems. Not like you've ever been unfaithful. Because that would be a real mess, wouldn't it? Especially if I had evidence. There are financial implications. And whoever you are seeing, well, it might impact her as well. And of course there would be Sam to consider." She didn't point out that Jane with a Y could lose her license. She didn't need to say that she would take everything from Derek. She simply watched as these thoughts occurred to him, and the corners of his mouth twitched. "We're so lucky not to have these problems, aren't we?" With a yawn, the black cat opened its eyes and stretched. It looked up at her, then got up to rearrange itself into a new position, still against her leg, but this time staring calmly at Derek with yellow eyes. He took an uncertain step backward. She wondered what he saw when he looked at her. Whatever it was, she knew that it was incorrect. There was a fault in his vision, as there had been a fault in hers before the cat. She was learning to see beyond what was there, and he would learn too. His slow, heavy footsteps passed up the stairway, and a feeling bubbled up in her chest. It was a laugh, and when it came out, it sounded strange to her. A cackle that spiked through the room sharply, filling it with its blade edges, even though nothing funny had happened at all. She could see in the dark now. She saw things that she had never seen before. People left chemtrails as they walked past. She could smell them, smell their thoughts. People were vile. She had never noticed before. Anna had always thought that most people were kind, but now she knew better. In the darkness, they were revealed as glossy and secretious, covered in mucus and open sores that led directly to their bones. Their eyes bulged, their clothing hid bruises of purple and black, their breath reeked. "What's with the eyeliner?" her son asked. She had ringed her eyes with black coal, had smudged dark eyeshadow across her lids. It helped her see in the dark. It helped her see deep into dark hearts. "Do you like it?" "It's kind of scary," Sam said. He touched his hair where it brushed his right ear. It was the gesture that Derek often made when he was nervous. "Your eyes look huge," Sam said. Anna noticed how he shivered as she smiled. She said, "All the better to see you with, my dear." Derek was trapped. He was too afraid to leave. But there was still part of him that clung to the illusion that he held a shred of power. The cat had taken to urinating on the slippers he kept on his side of the bed. One morning, after he had brewed and poured his own cup of coffee, he said, "We need to rehome that cat." Anna was standing at the counter. She took a sip of coffee from the mug in her hand. Then slowly she poured the rest of the coffee into the sink. She threw the mug through the kitchen window, sending shattered glass exploding onto the bushes below. After that, Derek began to sleep in the guest room. He tried to make it seem like it wasn't important. He showed her an article in the New York Times to prove that this was the new thing, married couples in their own bedrooms. She nodded, agreed, but when she was alone, she asked the mirror who was the fairest of them all. The mirror laughed. Her youth and beauty and the expectations of a wife and a mother and an employee had burned away. She had been fair for so long, more than fair, but the world was not fair. And now she wasn't fair either. She began to sleep on her back, the black cat perched sphinx-like on her chest, and they spent the nights that way, perfectly still, except for their breathing, which fell into the same rhythm, until it seemed to Anna that she and the cat were the same being. Sam was still in the house, but they barely spoke now. She was not sure that he could see her, now that she was shrouded in mist. Something was happening to her. Her son turned her stomach. The smell of him, the complete stench of a boy his age who would grow up to be like his father. An apple so close to the tree that it would become the tree. She remembered how he used to fit along the length of her arm. She remembered how he would lie on her shoulder, his dark down hair soft against her cheek, his sweet sour baby smell, his soft little foot. But now he smelled like the world, like Derek, of rot. She would build an oven the size of a man and lock them in a cage to fatten them up. She would shove them into the oven, slam the door, cook them until their skin blackened and fat rolled into the pan. And she would feast on their muscle and gristle, digesting their strength. These thoughts rocked her like a baby in a crib on the ocean, floating toward the edge of the world. Her dreams were full of walls made of mist, castles in ruins covered in climbing pink roses, dripping faded petals over the fallen stone, a black cat with yellow eyes that burned like flame. She woke, drenched in sweat, the sheet beneath her wet, a weight on her chest. The cat, and a strange smell that slipped into her nostrils, down her throat, and she realized that the house was on fire. The walls were smoke that billowed and rolled, but she and the cat lay on the bed, cool, unmoving. She knew how the fire had begun. The fire is me, Anna thought. The mist that hung around her was smoke. She had already disappeared in the flame. She lay perfectly still, the cat curled into a perfect circle, a manhole into her chest. Down the hall, her son. In the guest room, her husband. Around her, fire to burn her house of gingerbread to the ground.
That was Lisa Papademetriou's A House Made of Gingerbread, as read by Jennifer March. Jennifer has a passion for literature. She created a local radio show called Not Your Mother's Storytime, which has become a podcast with thousands of listeners who appreciate classic short stories. She views storytelling as an essential and ancient part of society and civilization. She believes every culture has its stories and its tellers, and she is honored to be one of them. Thank you, Jennifer. Well, children of the night, the hour is late, and we've run out of tales to tell. For now. Tales to Terrify is made possible by the tremendous generosity of our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Incredible fans like Lestle Baxter, Amanda Carrillo, Amanda Gottfried, and Orion D. Hegre, whose generous support keeps these lights on and flickering ominously. If you're not a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Tales to Terrify. You'll find all kinds of perks, like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and one-of-a-kind collectibles. Every dollar goes back into this show, and we appreciate your support so much. Want another way to support the show that doesn't cost you a cent? Head over to Podchaser, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. You'll not only put an unnaturally wide smile on our faces, but help new listeners discover our terrifying tales too. You can show your love of the show out in the world with some Tales to Terrify merch. TalesToTerrify.com/merch will take you to our TeePublic store, where we've got a great collection of creepy custom and curated designs. Tales to Terrify is produced by Seth Williams, Meredith Morgenstern, Andrew Gibson, Crystal Hammond, Spencer Disparty, and myself, Drew Sebastini, with original theme by Nebulous Entertainment. Tales to Terrify is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Join us again next week as we cruise midnight highways in search of more Tales to Terrify.